Dad, what's the future gonna look like?
So our core identity as a company, the way that we think about what we do, is building flying robots that give people superpowers. And like I suspect everybody here, we are super passionate about the technology. I've been working on this stuff my whole life, and I think building these intelligent flying machines is really the most exciting thing imaginable to get to work on. But the giving people superpowers part is really the most important piece of this. And we work with an incredible array of customers. We serve law enforcement, fire, we work with every branch of the US military, critical infrastructure, departments of transportation, and the common thread between all of this is putting sensors in the most important places at the most important moments to get better information, to make better decisions, and keep people safer. So if we're gonna think about kind of where the industry is going, I think it's useful to reflect a little bit on where it's come from. So I'm going to give sort of a brief history of the category of drones that we make. So these things really started off as kids' toys. This is the world that I come from. I grew up flying these things. They were super fun, they were inspiring, but the impact was not enormous. I mean, really nobody cared about it other than the person actually flying it. And 10 or 15 years ago, people kind of realized that if you put the right sensors on these things, they could do useful work. And I sort of think of this as like the tools era of drones, where you have a skilled pilot. If they know what they're doing, they can do useful missions, and a lot of great stuff happened. If we want to think about where we're going, you can look at what our most advanced customers are doing today. So one of the things that we see growing just rapidly across the country is the concept of drone as first responder. What does that mean? So I'll show some examples here. So Oklahoma City Police Department was one of our first customers. This is a drone that launched itself from a docking station in response to a 911 call. So a train operator called 911 in a panic, afraid that they might have hit somebody on the tracks. They launched the drone. It got there in a few seconds. And they did find that, unfortunately, there was a homeless person asleep on the tracks that had been hit by the train. But because they could find him in a few seconds, they guided in first responders and probably saved this man's life. Another example, other end of the spectrum. So this is from San Francisco. This is a report of a stolen vehicle. Same thing, they launched the drone from the rooftop. This is called, they launched from the Hall of Justice, it's a great name. So they go out and find the stolen car, and they can now track it from the air. This gives the officers an incredible asymmetric advantage. So they knew that this happened, but they never actually caught somebody in the act. So he's stolen a car, now he's stealing license plate to put on the car. He very graciously holds it up so that we can read it from the drone. The criminal tactics are going to have to change here. This was a surprise to me, not a surprise to our law enforcement customers. Now he's tinting the windows. So this is the beginning of a very bad news story. This is a stolen car with cold plates on it, tinted windows. He's going to go off and do a bunch of bad stuff, and the officers can just perfectly pick their time and moment thanks to the advantage the drone gives them. So they roll spike strips. He went down a dead-end street. They go and pick him up. And this is safer for everybody involved. It's safer for the officers. It's safer for the community. It's even safer for the suspect. I'll show one more law enforcement example here. And these stories are coming in every day now. So this was a tragic situation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where there were some kids in the backyard firing their parents' gun. So all the neighbor reported was that there were shots fired from the backyard. The officers responded. Because they had the information from the drone, they could see that it was two 9-year-olds, and they used that to de-escalate the situation. The sheriff actually said, without the drone, there's a very high chance that the officers probably would have shot these kids. Yeah, thank you. But it's not just law enforcement.
The docking station is here at the substation for the Clintonville and Linden neighborhoods. The drone is stored inside of this, and with it already being in the area, AEP Ohio is able to be looking at the outage spot within minutes.
The intent is that we identify the solution quick, and then at that point, the line crew's on site, ready to make the repair.
The docking station also allows them to pilot the drones remotely.
When there's trouble, with the click of a button, we're able to deploy the drone from here in headquarters in Gahanna.
So they're not just going to outages, they're trying to prevent them.
And in the past year, we found almost 300 instances where we fixed an outage before it happened.
So this is a fundamental transformation in the way that we operate and maintain our critical physical infrastructure. And it's a fundamentally different paradigm for operating drones. Rather than sending a person out there who's going to fly it manually, the drone lives in the network-connected docking station. It can be flown remotely or fully autonomously. And we've been thinking about what to call this, and we're actually directly inspired by our customers. Like, we think of our customers as the critical physical infrastructure that our civilization runs on. And I think that word, infrastructure, actually captures where drones are going. And it applies to what we're doing. I would argue it also applies to drone delivery. The critical physical structures that a society or civilization runs on. And that's exactly what drones are becoming. I think we're entering a new era where drones themselves become physical infrastructure. And the impact in this world is going to be 10x what we've seen before. I mean, as popular as drones have been historically, when they're persistent and network connected and docked, you can just do incredible things with them at a scale and scope that has never been possible. So this idea of docked drones is still relatively nascent, but it's taking off like wildfire across the country. So all of these sites are live today. We've got hundreds more coming soon. And as a company now, we serve 3,000 organizations around the world that are doing work like this on a daily basis. Every branch of the US military, hundreds of law enforcement agencies, hundreds of critical physical infrastructure companies, and it's a real business. We're at hundreds of millions of revenue and growing very quickly. I still think we're very small compared to the total opportunity here, but it is now scaling rapidly and having massive impact. Seeing the delivery presentations made me wish that I had our numbers here, but to date, just our civilian customers, our online customers, have done about 2.6 million flights. We don't track flights from military customers, but they're probably on par with that. So maybe order 5 million flights, and by the end of this year, we'll be close to 1 million flights per year rate. So if we're building infrastructure, reliability is really the most important feature of the product. There's a bunch of great capabilities built in, but the number one thing is you need to be able to count on it when it matters most. And building small drones is kind of deceptively hard. Because they're small, I think people think it might be easy, but it's actually, in many ways, more challenging because you're so size and weight constrained. It's really on par from a technical challenge with building a self-driving car, except it has to fly, or rocket ships, and so on. And just to give you like a glimpse of the kinds of capabilities, this is fully autonomous flight through the urban canyon at city scale now happening every day. So our flagship product, the X10, is great for kind of mainline, workhorse, city scale coverage, but some of the most dangerous jobs happen in confined spaces. This is where a number of officer-involved shootings happen. This is also where some of the most dangerous, important inspection work happens. So just last week, actually, we launched a product that we're calling the Skydio R10, which takes all the technology and shrinks it down even further to be able to get into these confined spaces. And it's designed to really fly these impossible missions where otherwise a person would have to get into some tiny little 2-foot wide crawl space. But with the flying robot and the advanced AI and autonomy, these impossible missions become easy. If you zoom out a little bit, there's also a need for something that can cover much larger areas. You know, we have utilities that operate thousands of miles of transmission lines, DOTs that have thousands of miles of road networks. We work with counties that are thousands of square miles. And this is, this is a different domain from what we've previously served. The question is, how are we going to do it? So one answer is you build a giant quadcopter, and you could increase range and endurance a little bit by doing that. But the obvious answer, especially to everybody in the audience here, especially if you want to keep the thing smaller and lighter, is to build a wing. So wings are not a new concept, but they are relatively new to the category of drone that we make. The problem with wings is getting the thing in and out of the air. So obviously, conventionally, you take off and land from a runway, but that takes up a lot of space. You can do vertical takeoff or landing. There's tons of examples of that around here today. But we think there's actually a fundamentally new possibility in the age of robotics. So this is a fixed-wing drone. This is a robotic arm that happens to be in the back of a Cybertruck. So like the docking station, that drone can be charging, picked up by the arm, launched into the air. The beauty of using the robotic arm is you can keep all of the mass and complexity on the ground. So the airframe itself can be perfectly streamlined, super elegant, 2 motors, 2 control surfaces, the most imaginable, the most simple, elegant flying device you can imagine. And the robotic arm at the end of the flight can just snatch it out of the air and stow the thing away. So I actually think this is kind of a fundamentally new paradigm in the operation of flying things. It doesn't make sense in every situation, but in situations where you control the launch and land location, you want the thing that flies to be as simple and light as possible. You can do what we're starting to call robotic takeoff and landing. And this builds on ideas that have been out there. So we actually saw some examples earlier from Zipline. This is a video from ScanEagle, one of the first drones that did something like this. So they're using physical infrastructure to make it easier to take off and land. Aircraft carriers do the same thing. But both of these require people involved. They're not necessarily simple and elegant. I think using the robotic arm is a really, really cool idea. And it's actually not a new one. It's been around for 30 years. We found this video from the good folks at MIT that were catching paper airplanes 30 years ago. The challenge is how do you make it reliable? And that's really what we've been focused on at Skydio. So we've been building up the technology foundation with our quadcopter docking stations, which we really think of as robotic ground stations. And we're moving super fast on this. So the other products are mature and in market. The wing is new for us, but we expect to be doing real customer missions with it in the first half of next year. And at maturity, we think this is a product that can completely end high-speed car chases. No need to send anybody on the ground, just send a drone to track the car. Can bring emergency first response to even the most sparsely populated rural areas in the country. Cover the entire energy grid, cover the entire road network for proactive inspection or emergency response. And you should never have to send a soldier to the front lines just to launch and land a drone. You can send a robot ship with robot arms to launch as many flying robots as you need. And at true scale, I think this gives us the possibility of covering every square mile of land mass on Earth. So any natural disaster, any inspection work that needs to happen, anybody in need, you'll be able to send a drone and it'll get there in just a few minutes. So I do believe this is a new era where drones are becoming physical infrastructure. And I think many people, and probably not wrongfully so, view the US as the underdog, especially in the category of drones that we make, these kind of small, light electric systems. The toys era and the tools era have been dominated by Chinese companies, but historically, betting against American innovation in aerospace is a losing proposition. And we are super motivated to win this kind of next chapter of the drone world. It's a different technology landscape. It's really why we started Skydio, to make these things smart enough to fly themselves. And I think it's a fundamentally new ballgame where we as a country can win, and the stakes are higher than they've ever been before. So we've got a whole family of flying robots to make this world possible. And Cyrus alluded to this, but we wouldn't be here without the direct support and help from many folks in the audience here today. So I really appreciate all the support that you've given us, and I'm very excited about where the industry is going. Thank you.
The future is gonna be awesome. The future is gonna be awesome.